Hi, Igor. Good to see you again.
Hi, nice to be back.
So, you recently went through the Contemplate mental fitness program, and that is what we will talk about today. But why don't you introduce yourself to the audience first?
Yes, of course. So I'm Igor Lucic. I am a rowing coach, a national and a regional rowing coach in Berlin, and I'm a sports psychologist at the same time. Had a long national career and a three-time world champion and a world record holder in rowing also.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, what have you seen as a national rowing coach in terms of the mental aspect of athletes today?
Sadly, not much. There is no emphasis almost at all, especially in the younger generations, where I think it's even more important because there is not as much money, to be honest, not as much investment. Expectations are high, but sadly, we're not giving enough emphasis. It is slowly changing. People are aware that there is a need, and athletes also, but still, there is barely anything being done productively on that matter. Yeah.
And what kind of examples have you seen with these young athletes? You said particularly younger people need it the most. Can you share a couple of examples that you've seen where these people really need mental fitness training?
So first of all, I think they're in a big disbalance with themselves, super restless. That's what I notice the most. Sometimes it is normal. They're children. Some of them are younger, so it's normal to be a bit restless. But they're really dissociated between what they want to do, what they need to do, what they can do. So there is a lot of um, inputs going around, is it from parents, from the coach, from themselves, and then in the end, sadly, they take it all on themselves and take it personally and put themselves way too often under way too much pressure. Um, Sadly, in those moments is when things go wrong. Either they injure themselves or they fail to show their true value when it matters, like on the field or in the race in this case. So getting them in mental state to actually just do what they can already do is the biggest challenge. And yeah, that's where I see the most benefit from a program like this.
I see. It's interesting you say injury because I just spoke to Adrian a couple of days ago, who's an ex NHL hockey player and now a coach.
Mhm.
And he also mentioned injury because of mental stress. Have you seen anything
Yes,
to that effect?
definitely. I can also talk from my own experience as an athlete. Almost all the injuries that ever happened and also accidents happen when my mental state was not there or I was super stressed, uneased, not focused. In those moments, let's say you're doing some weightlifting and you're not focused, it's just one bad movement with a lot of weight on your back. If you're, let's
Oh,
say, you're
I
doing
see.
squats, can cause you a big injury.
I see.
So really being not being within your body, but somewhere else.
Okay. Now, as you know, Contemplate's approach to sports mental fitness is that an athlete is a human being first, then a human being plus an athlete for only a few years, but continues to be a human being for many, many more years. But sadly, traditionally, we have only focused on the athlete part of the athlete and ignored the human being part of the athlete. So we focus on both the human being part first and then the sports mental fitness part as an athlete. How do you think contemplates mental fitness approach will help athletes and also help coaches help their athletes better?
First of all, I think going myself through the whole process with Contemplate, I definitely got back sense of myself and got way calmer in my thought process, which will definitely already help not just athletes, but the coaches as well. So the stress of things having to happen right away and right now will let go. So I think then the coaches will start thinking long term. So they're investing in their athletes not for one season, but for 10 seasons or even more, hopefully. So you don't want an athlete to be one-time world champion as a junior. You want them to compete in 3 Olympic Games to come and really live up the full potential. So I think after going through this process, I definitely think that a lot of, if not everybody, will come to the same conclusion that we need to think long term, and long term approach is to have a healthy approach and to think of a body as not just physical vehicle, but also emotional and mental, and with it that we are also humans. And in this case, in any case, we're humans first. So we're all athletes, yes, but we're humans who are athletes, not the other way around.
Yeah, very well said. And what do you see as the future in this area?
So I see that there is a lot of things being said, and they're like people are already trying to figure out the solution. I think in the future we will take at least the same amount of effort to work on our mental state as on a physical, and because that's, in my opinion, the last frontier on which we can improve a lot. And if we see it nowadays at the training centers, usually we have all coaches. That's a must. But then we have a physiotherapist. Then we have, let's say, a doctor. So there's like different priorities that should now slowly start switching. That we have somebody who is on the mental side there, let's say mental coach, in alignment with the physical coach or whatever sports. And two of them should become a core team that should lead the athletic team, let's say, a group of people training, and they should have an equal say in what's being done according to the needs, of course, season, not season. And I think it's also a good way to disperse the pressure that athletes have usually coming from only one person. So there's a lot of benefit, not just from this side, but I also see a long-term benefit for the athletes in the bigger teams that they can manage the two sides of themselves, mental and physical.
Yeah, we also see a future where, in addition to the sports coach, you will also have a mental fitness coach on the sidelines, and just like you have a nutritionist. So the core coach, of course, knows the importance of the right diet and nutrition, but they don't necessarily deliver that expertise every single time.
Mm.
Similarly, we see the core sports coach being aligned with the Contemplate mental fitness system, but having a specialized mental fitness coach who's also delivering mental fitness training every day of the week, just like physical fitness training is being delivered to athletes. So we are aligned there.
Yeah. I would like to add one more thing. I think it's really important to approach it as a training as well, to a certain extent, because when we think about training as an athlete or as coaches, we think about the thing that we need to do, and everything else is kind of optional. So I think it should be considered, especially for athletes, as a training process, because we are, in the end of the day, training a muscle. This is a mental muscle, just like any other muscle. If you don't use it, will not work, and we cannot expect on the day of the race to pull a miracle if we didn't do it on a daily basis over and over again. So it should become a second nature, like sport becomes second nature to athletes the older they get. We should learn to use the system like Contemplate to get to that level that our emotional state is also on the same level as the physical to perform anything we need. And that being said, tomorrow when we're not athletes anymore, we can use the same method and system in whatever we decide to do and be high achievers and high performers in whatever they decide to do after ending our career as an athlete.
Yeah, that's the human being part. Yeah, and
Yeah,
interesting you bring that up. Even with Adrian, when I was speaking to him, he said the same thing what you just said, that there is expectation without training from the athletes. So you have trained their bodies for months together. So it is logical, reasonable to expect their bodies to perform. But you have not trained their mind at all. But still you expect their minds to suddenly perform. So that expectation without training is a little unreasonable, and as you said, it's a mental muscle which you have not trained. So how will it perform magically?
Yeah. And I think it's also important to note why the athletes and the coaches come to conclusion that they can perform a certain feat, like physical feat, because they did it already, let's say in the training or
That's right.
in some sessions. But the thing is, the race is never another training and the game is never another play. It is the real thing. And in that moment, all the pressure of the world is on your back, and the higher the stakes, the more important it is. And in that moment, keeping calm, being yourself, staying focused, it's easier said than done. So we're
Yeah.
training for something that we don't even know what we're going to experience. So we're training for that one moment. That's why it's important to give it way more emphasis than we're doing at the moment. Even in the highest level, I'm working in the Olympic Center, and I can say that they came with the bronze for the last Olympic Games. The guys that were training in our center. I mean, I didn't coach them personally, but I see how they were training, and they didn't have support. They had a sports psychologist they were seeing once a month or something like that. But interestingly, the girls, it was a girl squad, they were all doing their own way. Somebody was journaling, one was meditating, other was yoga obsessed. So they had the need for it, and in their own way, they were trying to find a solution. So I think having organized solution for the clubs and national teams would be way more beneficial than hoping that your athletes on that level, on the Olympic level, are figuring out their own ways, which
Yeah.
is
And I think that's the gap from
yeah,
see the psychologist once a month to you also train the mind every day just like you train the body. So when that moment comes, you have already done those reps 1,000 times. It's not new. You don't have to figure it out somehow. And that is
definitely.
when at least it is reasonable to expect because you have trained.
Yeah, yeah. And
Completely
then it's
agree.
not a shock. And then it's not a shock when real stress comes your way, you can handle it. And that's
You've
the
already
whole point of
practiced. Yeah. That's the
exactly.
whole point of training. Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah,
This is wonderful. Thank you, Igor. Thank
yeah.
you so much
You're welcome.
for your time.
Thank you.
And
Thank
see
you
you
for having me.
soon. Thanks.
Bye bye.